When I first got Max, I thought I was just adopting a dog, a fluffy little bundle of joy that would wag his tail every time I walked through the door. I imagined long walks in the park, playing fetch, and those adorable moments when he would tilt his head as if trying to understand every word I said. But then, one day, I stumbled upon a crime documentary, and it hit me like a lightning bolt. Why not teach Max to be a detective? I mean, dogs have this incredible sense of smell, right? They can sniff out drugs, find missing persons, and even detect certain diseases. So why not channel that talent into something a little more unconventional? I started small, of course. I grabbed a few of his favorite toys and hid them around the house. I figured it would be a good way to ease him into the whole detective thing. I'd say, "Max, find the squeaky duck," and watch as he bounded off, his nose to the ground, tail wagging like a flag in a storm. At first, he just looked at me like I was crazy, but then something clicked. He sniffed around, his little brain working overtime, and within minutes, he'd found it, proudly bringing it back to me, tail wagging furiously. I was ecstatic. I thought, this is it. We're on to something here. So I decided to up the ante. I started hiding treats in more challenging spots, under the couch, behind the curtains, even inside my shoes. I'd watch him as he sniffed and searched, his determination palpable. It was like watching a little furry Sherlock Holmes in action. I could almost hear the dramatic music playing in the background as he pieced together the clues. "Elementary, my dear Watson," I imagined him saying, as he uncovered each hidden treasure. But then I thought, why stop at toys and treats? I wanted to take this to the next level. I started creating scenarios. I'd pretend to lose my keys or misplace my phone, and I'd call out, "Max, help me find my keys." At first, he just looked at me, confused. "What do you mean, find your keys? I'm a dog." But I persisted. I'd point to the general area where I thought I'd last seen them, and slowly he began to understand. He'd sniff around, his little nose working like a finely tuned machine, and eventually he'd find them. I'd cheer and give him a treat, and he'd prance around like he'd just solved the biggest case of his life. Then came the day I decided to take it outside. I thought, why not turn the neighborhood into our very own crime scene? I grabbed a few of his toys and scattered them around the yard, then invited some friends over for a little detective challenge. I explained the rules. Max would be the lead detective, and they would be his assistants. We'd have a blast, I thought. As my friends arrived, I could see the skepticism on their faces. "You're really going to teach your dog to be a detective?" One of them chuckled. I shrugged it off. "Just wait and see," I said, brimming with confidence. We set up the crime scene, and I gave Max the command to start searching. At first, he was a little distracted. The neighbors were mowing their lawns, and there were squirrels darting around, taunting him. But I called out, "Max, focus!" and he snapped back to attention. He started sniffing around, and I could see the gears turning in his head. My friends were watching, some laughing, others genuinely intrigued. Then it happened. Max found the first toy, a little plush bone I'd hidden behind a bush. He picked it up and trotted over, tail wagging like a propeller. My friends erupted in cheers, and I felt a surge of pride. "See, he's a natural," I exclaimed. We continued the game, and with each toy he found, Max grew more confident. He was in his element, and I couldn't help but think that maybe, just maybe, I was onto something. But then came the ultimate test. I decided to create a missing person scenario. I had my friend Sarah hide behind a tree, and I told Max that she was lost. I pointed to the tree and said, "Max, find Sarah." He looked at me, then at the tree, then back at me, as if to say, "You've got to be kidding me." But I was serious. I encouraged him, and slowly he started to sniff around, his nose working overtime. It felt like an eternity, but finally he caught her scent. He bolted toward the tree, and when he found her, he jumped up, barking excitedly. My friends erupted in applause, and I felt like I was raising the next canine crime fighter. I couldn't believe how far we'd come. But then reality hit. I realized that while Max was great at finding toys and treats, he wasn't exactly solving crimes. He wasn't going to be chasing down bad guys or cracking cases. He was just a dog, after all. And yet, in that moment, I understood something profound. It wasn't about the end result. It was about the journey we took together. The joy in his eyes, the wag of his tail, the bond we formed through this silly little game. So, maybe Max wouldn't be the world's first canine detective, but he was my partner in crime, my little sidekick. And that was enough. We'd continue our adventures, sniffing out hidden treasures in our backyard, solving the mystery of the missing sock, and enjoying every moment together. Because in the end, it wasn't about being a detective. It was about the love, the laughter, and the memories we created along the way. And honestly, that was the greatest case we could ever solve.